On Saturday, June 4th, 1966, in Westminster, California, police received a strange call. 19-year-old Robert Liberty told them that his girlfriend Marcella Landis was dead in their apartment. When the cops showed up, Marcella was found just like Robert had described, but her body was sprawled on the couch with a silk stocking wrapped around her neck, candles lit around her from head to toe, and a Bible on her chest. Even more strangely, Robert was sitting next to her body, strumming a guitar. He was quickly taken into custody, and he was found not guilty of the murder due to insanity. Only 3 years later, Robert was released from the mental hospital as a free man, and as you might expect, the killing continued. Welcome to History's Biggest Villains. Robert was born on May 15, 1947, somewhere in California. Information on his upbringing is scarce, but it's clear that he was a drug abuser and there were mental issues present, as by 1966, he was in the Orange County Medical Center after a suicide attempt. He met 31-year-old Marcella Landis, and the pair began dating. After they were both released, Robert moved into Marcella's apartment in Westminster. On June 4, 1966, the couple got into an argument and Robert strangled her to death with a silk stocking. After he killed her, he dressed up her body and applied makeup to her face. He then laid her on the couch, lighting candles from her head to her feet, and placed a Bible on her chest. When the police responded, they found Robert sitting next to her body, strumming a guitar and humming to himself, and he was quickly arrested. Even with all the evidence available, a judge declared him insane, and he spent 3 months at the Atascadero State Hospital. In February 1967, Robert was found not guilty by reason of insanity, and he was transferred to the Vacaville State Hospital. By 1969, all the psychiatrists who interviewed Robert claimed that he had recovered, but on June 2nd, the doctors mislabeled him as a discharged patient, and he walked out of the hospital as a free man. Only 3 years after killing his girlfriend, the hospital staff realized this error and brought him back, only to officially release him in September, after 6 court-appointed psychiatrists declared him as legally sane. After his release, he moved to Costa Mesa, where he shared an apartment with 3 other men. On March 12, 1970, he fatally shot 25-year-old Thomas Astorina, one of his roommates, after an argument over a TV set. Police found his body face down in a ditch in Huntington Beach, with a .22 caliber bullet wound in his stomach. Robert was charged with this murder, but he fled, and now a warrant was out for his arrest for flight to avoid prosecution. While on the run, Robert met a woman named Kendall Beerley, and the two began dating. On June 6th, they hitchhiked a ride from 17-year-old Richard Graytack. Once in the car, Robert pulled out his pistol and forced Richard to drive to his mom's house, where he robbed her at gunpoint for $45. He then returned to the car, where he forced his captive to drive them to San Diego. When they stopped at the nearby building, Robert got out of the car and broke into the apartment of 53-year-old Robert Irion, a former patient at the mental hospital he was at. Robert tied up Irion and Richard, and kept them that way while he and Kendall ransacked the apartment. Finally, at midnight, Robert decided to get rid of his victim, so he beat Irion to death with a blunt instrument. After displaying the body and lighting candles by his head, Robert took a grease pencil and wrote a message on the door. The Candlelight Killer strikes again, and catch me if you can. In their haste, the pair left Richard hogtied in the apartment, and after 7 hours, he was finally able to free himself and notify the police, and the manhunt for Robert only intensified. But officials in California weren't able to find him, as he fled the state after this latest crime. On June 9, 1970, the pair had picked up another accomplice, 17-year-old Glenn Allen Fawcett, and they showed up to the Colorado Springs motel, signing the register and paying for 2 nights in advance. Only 20 minutes after they checked in, they broke into the office of the owner, Rudolph Brennick. A revolver was pointed in his face, and the group took off with a rifle, a credit card, and $109 in cash. But that wasn't enough for them, as they forced him to wake up his wife and daughter, as they were hogtied. The group left the residence with Rudolph's wife as a hostage, fleeing the scene in his 1961 white Plymouth. But by this time, the police had already been notified, and they were hot on their trail. Glenn was the getaway driver, while Robert had Miss Brennick held at gunpoint in the back seat. The chase proceeded through a mall parking lot in an interstate freeway at speeds of over 100 miles an hour, and when Robert realized that Glenn couldn't shake the cops, he aimed his revolver out of the window and shot at their pursuer. 6 bullets to be exact, but none of them were even close to the target. The officer, Bernard Carter, returned fire, hitting the car 3 times, and the group finally gave up the chase, and Robert tossed the pistol out of the window in defeat. Miss Brennick was returned safely, but the 3 offenders were taken back to the station. Robert was charged with kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer, aggravated robbery, and auto theft. Kendall was held on the same counts, except for the assault charge. Glenn was only booked for aggravated robbery. Robert and Kendall both pled not guilty by reason of insanity, and they were sent back to prison to await their trial. But Robert never saw his day in court, as on January 20th, 1971, he and fellow cellmate Paul Eugene Rankin were both killed by Timothy Early Dudley. another inmate already serving life for murder. Both Robert and Paul were found strangled by their shirts. Not gonna lie to you, I'm never one to celebrate someone's death, but the way that Robert left is poetic justice. The first victim you kill by strangling her with clothing, and then you get killed by being strangled by clothing. Just poetic justice. You can obviously see that, back then they didn't really handle mental illness the best. They just threw you in a loony bin and just discarded you pretty much. It just seems like he was just a psychopath who was a drug addict who just went on a freaking rampage and just randomly started killing people. Lighting candles by the body, Bibles, like I don't even know what your mind process is. I really don't understand. Thank you for watching. I appreciate y'all for the support. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Turn my post notification on if you haven't already. Thank you. Please be safe. Stay on the grind. I'm out. Peace.